Oh, the voice.
Wow.
That is.
Okay, so, oh no.
Oh, nice.
How do I go back?
Press the
Okay,
back.
I think it's fine. We'll start. Okay, so we're gonna start now. So we're gonna start off with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and to protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans and all newcomers, have been invited into this treaty in a spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. We further acknowledge that the Toronto District School Board is hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We encourage you to research the original occupants of the land where you reside. So just a quick disclaimer, the session that you're attending will be recorded for either administrative use or to be re-uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is ESA Contemporary Art. Go check it out, it's great. The chat and Q&A and your usernames will remain within the session and will not be published. As always, we wish to make this a very positive, insightful, and supportive experience. Please refrain from disrespectful commentary or misconduct. If we see some of any kind, it will not be tolerated and you will be excused from the session. And you don't want to be excused. It's going to be so great. Okay. So I guess we'll start now. Welcome to ARTCON, staying creative during quarantine. Hi, I'm Jane Forrest. I'm your host for tonight. I'm a grade 10 student at the Etobicoke School of the Arts, and I'm majoring in contemporary arts and studying contemporary photography. These are a few of the oil and canvas paintings I made this year during quarantine. And you can see a bit more of my work on my Instagram, which is at janes.art, and also on my website, which is janeforrest.com. Just on behalf of everyone, thank you for coming and welcome. We hope that you have a good time.
Hi, I'm Ava. I am a grade 10 student at Etobicoke School of the Arts, and I also major in contemporary arts. These are a couple of my paintings. I work in oils and acrylics on canvas, and my Instagram is at evelyn._. Yeah, check it out. Welcome. Oh, my voice, sorry.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I'm in grade 11 at ESA in contemporary art, and I'm also studying contemporary photography. Yeah, this is some of the work that I've made in quarantine. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Hi, I'm Dessa Ely. I'm a grade 11 student at ESA as well, in the contemporary arts program, as well as contemporary photography. My website and Instagram are on the slideshow, and that's some of the work I've made in the past year.
Okay, so first we're going to start off with some of our inspiration. So I think we can all agree that having like artists we look up to, whether it's like visual artists or like musicians, or just creative people in general, is so important to staying creative and staying productive. Having people that kind of are like living the dream for like your goals really help you to set these goals for yourself and like imagine yourself like being where they are. So one artist I really look up to and who inspires my work is Jackson Pollock. And I first saw his work when I was like 8 or 9, and that really helped me set goals for myself as an artist, but like also generally as a person. And then another artist that I'm really inspired by is Anton Kiefer. So like specifically in quarantine, I've done a lot of reading and like watching videos about his work, and finding like things online of artists speaking about their own work is so important and so crucial, and that really helps you stay motivated and stay creative. So yeah, Ava.
Oh yeah, the two people I look up to on this list are Arnold Bachlin and Ivan Ivazovsky. And they're both painters, because the people I look up to at the moment are painters, because that is the medium that I work in. And I think it's very important in like, especially doing art in isolation, to have people to look up to, because when you go to ESA, you go into the studio and there's all these works and all your friends are there, but in isolation, there's really no one except for yourself. And it's important to have constant inspiration and, like things to motivate you to make art. And these are a couple of people that I look up to. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so another artist I really look up to is Michael Smith. And so when like galleries were open for like 10 minutes, I got to go to a gallery, and he was having a show there and I got to meet him. And that's also really important with staying productive. It's like going to galleries and getting to see the work of the artist that you look up to, and getting like, I got to speak to him, and that was like such a like motivating experience. And I went home and I started painting and doing work because of that. And then Leonardo Drew, that's another artist that I really like and I'm inspired by.
I can go next. I won't talk about everyone because most of these people on my list and on these lists inspire me, but specifically through quarantine, I've discovered Chella Man. Their work mostly is based off, like a lot of it is seen and created on Instagram, and I found the accessibility and the way that they inject activism in their life, in their work, really, really inspiring. And they have a really personal aspect to the way that they talk and present their work, which I find like to have this kind of really inspiring like vibe to it. So I found Chella Man to be really great through this. You should check out their Instagram. Dessa, you can go.
Yeah, I didn't add anyone to this list, but one artist that I've found really inspiring throughout quarantine was Do Hosa. He specifically because I didn't have a lot of Asian artist role models in my life, and coming across his work and finding similarities between the themes we were working with and between like almost the way we think, I found really beautiful and inspiring, and especially coming from other Asian artists was just a really important experience.
Yeah, so next we're going to talk about like the online transformation and what it's been like being in person at ESA, and then what it's like having to go online and not being in this community like all the time. So this is kind of like what it was like before lockdown. So this year, like we still had to like distance, but we still kind of found ways to talk, and the community is just so strong. And really being in the community, and like when you walk into ESA, it's like you're in an art gallery, and like there's art all over the walls, and it's just like just being in a place with people that like want you to succeed is so like inspiring and just motivates you so much with your own work. So these are actually photos of what it was like in the community before. Yeah, anyone else?
I'll go. It was kind of a hard transition to go from this and person to person, being able to talk to people and get through to people and create those really important bonds that I think is a lot of what an artist would rely on. We went from that to kind of like staring into a screen and trying to talk to people. And I fortunately haven't had art this quadmester, so I actually don't know what that's like, but I've been told that like it's really, and I feel like it would be a lot harder to kind of get through to people and talk to people and create that sense of community and like bond through a screen, because it's just not the same, been tough, but it is what it is.
Dessa and I have had online art this quad. And if you're not a member of the ESA community, just a little briefing. When you're in visual arts and you come in the room, there's like this kind of incredible energy that I don't even know what it does, but it really like kind of just completely goes through you and lets you open up in front of a group of people and everyone connects to each other and talks, and it's really easy to be vulnerable, and having that space that almost felt like ours taken away has been really difficult for sure. But I think the importance of this kind of thing, doing ARTCON and finding ways to connect to other people, which is somehow something this community is so naturally good at, has been really, really beneficial. And I found we'll talk about it a little bit later, but there are ways to reach our community that are not through being in the building and are accessible to others as well. So you can go on our YouTube channel and see art talks, and you can do this kind of thing, which I feel like we're always trying really hard to do. So this outreach has been really amazing, but it has been, as a student trying to develop their own practice at home, it's been hard to find the resources and to feel comfortable and to feel inspired. But that's what we're here to talk about. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely been a hard transition, but ESA is just such like a vibrant, inspiring place in itself, and just having so many people work really hard around you and seeing people making art is so inspiring in itself. And being away from that definitely put a dent in my creativity and my motivation. But I agree that like doing things like this and staying connected to your friends and just kind of really pushing yourself to stay motivated has been the thing that's been getting us all through this and letting us all stay creative without being in a room with 60 other people that want to make art and being able to have those discussions and see everyone making art around you.
Yeah, so skipped over this earlier, but I think one of the things that really motivated me are the art talks. So if you're unfamiliar with them, each year ESA, CA students and even people from other majors write art talks. And it's kind of just them speaking about their work and their inspiration and their process. And for me, I saw these before I even applied to go to ESA, and like seeing people not that much older than me speak about their work and see all the things they've accomplished, and just the level of clarity they had. That really made me feel like I was part of this community before like I technically was. So they're all available on the ESA YouTube right now, and they make the program accessible for everyone. So I really recommend that you check them out. We have a few recommended here. Yeah, anyone?
Yeah, I literally watch Sadie's art talk, Sadie Phillips, every time I need a little like personal boost, and I swear it does something new for me every time. So you should really check it out, because I think there's something in there for everyone, and anything that you need in the moment, it's there.
Yeah, and just people watching people talk about their art is just a whole new level of like intimacy. Especially after seeing these people's works, and having my own take on them, and then hearing them talk about it with this level of they're so like articulate and beautiful is just a whole new level of understanding, and you really realize how much goes into all of that work that they've done. Like it's a lot of work, and that has been a big inspiration for me. And I agree, like whenever I'm feeling like I need a push, just seeing all of these other people's accomplishments and hearing about how they accomplished it is a really amazing experience.
Yeah, and you said what I was going to say, but jumping into like how someone thinks about their art and how they process their art, it's like a whole new world. Like looking at the art and experiencing someone talking about their art really feels like, I don't know, it feels real and kind of intimate, and it's definitely something you should check out, because they're just all so nicely done. And listening to like the collection of all of their thoughts is like one of the most impressive things I think I've ever watched. So yeah, check them out.
Yeah, like please check them out. I've seen Luca's so many times, and they just give you like a goal to work towards. And every single time I felt unmotivated, I would go and I'd watch them all. And also, so Art Talk 14 airs this Saturday on ESA Contemporary Arts YouTube channel at 6:30, I believe. And my Art Talk's gonna air, so go check it out.
Oh, see it, everyone.
Everyone's put a lot of work into it, so that would be very appreciated. Rue said this. So we're just gonna talk a bit about more the online transition to like with school. And so like we went from being like in person in this place that's like ours with all these like paintings and community. So this is kind of my little art studio. And so it's really hard to go from a place where you're constantly surrounded by people who are so creative and productive to just this like your little room. And so one of the things I've done is try to surround myself with art. So some of my work, and then like that little print you see is a grad named Grace. So I try to surround myself with work and like books and things to help me stay productive during quarantine.
Yeah, that the little studio space closet looking thing on the left is mine. And it's been really different having to go from painting most of my stuff in like this huge studio space with all of my friends to basically, I call it my little Harry Potter cabinet, because you know how Harry Potter lives in a little thing under the stairs. That's that closet. It's under the stairs in my basement, and it's really isolated down there. It's kind of sad, but I kind of made it my own with my own little mess, and had to scale down a lot, but it doesn't look like it, but it's really a place that makes me feel happy and inspired. And it kind of just proves that we are able to adapt, and it is possible to make amazing art at home, like without being in the studio. It's just, you just need a little bit of a push. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think even something as little as making a space for yourself like this can feel like transformative. And I also think like the number one thing that I've personally found, and like other people as well, to be a really like big pusher of productivity is connection. And I think that finding connection through like other people was so easy when we were all in school together. Not for everyone, but for us for sure. But I think it's good to remind ourselves that there are other ways to feel that connection and to feel like there's something out there that's thinking the same things as you. And you can do that through books and, like as Ava was saying, and watching videos of artists. And I know it sometimes feels unnatural when you're an artist and you want to research and you want to go to things that aren't art. It might feel a little bit not obvious, but like please please do that, because if you're having trouble with the actual product, like producing your work, producing your work, please like read and please write and please watch videos, because like I find that the best art comes from connection and comes from empathy, and that comes from people, and people aren't just in art, people are in books and people are in videos. And so I would just say to find ways to feel connected and to try new things, because you're going to find things that make your art feel important everywhere. So I would do that.
Yeah, reading has been a huge thing for me in quarantine, which also like helps me feel productive in a way that's not just making art. Being able to like see themes within your own work in other people's work that isn't necessarily art is inspiring itself, and it's kind of validating, like I'm doing something right because this has worked for all of these other people. And I liked what you said, Jane, is you have Grace's little print. I think like surrounding yourself with things that inspire you is really important and is a really good way to stay motivated. It's just like a constant little reminder of that you're not alone, even though it feels like you're alone. And even though you're in your room or whatever little space you've occupied, you're still there's still ways to stay connected.
Yeah, and I think a way that's really helped me stay connected. Because all my work's been made at my house this year because we haven't been in school that much. But what I do is just I reach out to the people in the community. So a lot of the time when I'm painting, I FaceTime Ava, or like I call people in my class, or like I bother my art teachers and just try to speak to other artists and other people. And that like having people like figure out your problems with you is so important, and that helps your work so much. Yeah, so the next thing is online opportunities. So one of the benefits of the pandemic this year is there's a lot more like online opportunities out there. For me, when I didn't feel like I wanted to paint and I didn't really want to make art, I would spend a lot of time like finding things to apply to, and ESA has provided so many of like things to like apply to, but also like finding some on your own is also like really important. And really just like having, so like I've got rejected from a ton of things and like that sucks, but when you do get accepted, it's I've gained so much confidence in my work from getting accepted to shows and publications, and that has helped me so much like grow as an artist and stay productive. So
Yeah, I agree that that's definitely a benefit of the world kind of becoming online, is that these smaller organizations that might not have been able to afford putting on a big art show before, it could now have like the resources and to like put on a production and give people opportunities and make it also super accessible to anyone all over the world to apply, and also anyone all over the world to view it. Yeah, there were so many virtual galleries and magazines to apply to, which is just like, I agree with you, Jane. It's like, it's super validating when you get accepted. And it's also just a really good life skill to have, to be able to put yourself out there and, you know, fill out those forms. And when you do get accepted to those things, it made me at least feel kind of like a real artist almost for the first time. I was like, wow, other people are seeing my work that aren't just my classmates and teachers, which was really cool.
Yes, I find that this, I mean, one of the benefits of having this is like everything kind of becomes, like Dessa said, like everything's kind of on the same level suddenly. And like the hierarchy of art is kind of gone, like the art world, because when something gets posted, it's posted for everyone. And so I think that that's been really amazing. And with on the rejection thing, I know it can be really, really hard because putting art into a contest is different than anything else because it's so vulnerable. Like it's like you're putting yourself on the line kind of, and when it gets rejected, it feels like someone's like saying no to a piece of you, which is like hard. But if you can turn that into fuel, that's better and that's good and that's healthy to be able to let yourself work with it. But also sometimes people just don't even know what they're talking about. So but I mean, yeah, apply to things, look for it. I mean, I think a number one thing to say is like everything you need, well, not everything, but a lot of what you need is out there. So if you look, you'll probably find it.
And like having those deadlines, if you make an art according to a certain prompt, or just make art towards the goal of a certain gallery or opportunity in general, is really important, especially now, to kind of have something to look forward to and have something to not just mindlessly like put off making a piece and stuff like that. It's important to kind of get on that. Speaking of, I have one to make, so after this I'll probably be painting, but yeah.
Yeah, and it also just helps you like feel part of the community. So like a lot of the shows have had like virtual receptions and things, and it's easier to like feel part of the community when you don't have to like travel all across the city or even farther to like go to these things. And then it's also like really cool to see like who else is in the show and like see things that maybe you didn't apply to, but now because it's like virtual, you can view them anyway. And yeah, like I think no one's gonna get accepted to everything. And even if you don't, like whenever I got rejected from things, which was a lot, it just motivated me to apply to even more things. So I really encourage you, if you're not feeling motivated, like to make art, to like submit to things. Yeah. So the next kind of topic we have is about like the reality of art making. So like I know this year I've gone through times where I've made a lot of work in a short amount of time, and then I've made nothing for like 2 months, and that's okay. And that's part of being an artist, and that's part of being a person, and that's gonna happen. But really, like, there's when you're making art, and when you're an artist, there's more than just making work. And it's being an artist is like applying to shows, and it's doing things like ARTCON, and it's watching things like art talks. And there's so many different things that are needed to be an artist. So I also felt like when I wasn't making art, I would like try to write or try to just do something else that was also creative, even if it was just like listening to music and listening to different kinds of art. That also helped me feel productive. And then another thing is even if you feel like your art like hasn't been like doing a lot, or if you feel like your art hasn't been making this huge impact, almost all the time it's inspiring other people. So like everyone on my panel, they've inspired me. Like seeing their work has motivated my work so much. So I think you really need to let yourself, like, don't put all this pressure on yourself, because you're usually doing a lot more than you think you're doing. So yeah.
There were definitely moments where I was putting too much pressure on myself. And like I really wanted my art making to be linear and super consistent. And I think it's just really important to take care of yourself. And even if you're like producing a lot of work, there was a time where I was producing a lot of work, and then I was so burnt out that I didn't make anything for months on end. I think just as much as art can be self-care, you shouldn't like push yourself beyond what you can handle, because that will have many negative effects. And enjoying making art is really important. You should always be getting something out of art. And as much as it feels like, I don't know, it shouldn't feel like work. All of the art that I've made in my like best state hasn't felt like work. It's just felt like a part of me. So I'd say if you are struggling with that, and if making art feels like not natural, maybe you should take a step back and think about why it doesn't feel natural and what you can do to make it feel natural, because art can be a really amazing thing when done right, and it kind of really sucks when it doesn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a balance between making art and trying to be productive while making art, and like reading and researching and like watching videos. And then it's the balance between doing that and not wanting to do too much of it, because you will burn yourself out. It will happen. And I think that's a really kind of fine, like, you really got to be careful with it, because art can go from being used as a tool and something that helps lift you up. It can go from that to being like a weight and just like a chore and work to do, and that's what makes it unenjoyable. And that's a lot of the times I feel like why I specifically have just kind of stopped wanting to make art. At some points I'm like, nope, no more, I can't. And then I realized that I have to, keep doing it for my own well-being. And I do get happier after I do art though, which is a good thing. It means I'm enjoying it. So it's a balance.
Yeah, I would say it's a difficult balance at the least. It's, I don't know how to explain this, but there's always, if making the actual, I kind of said this before, if making actual physical work doesn't feel right and it feels like work, and it's not always going to be easy. Like, we're not saying if it doesn't feel easy, it's not right. Like, it's going to be hard sometimes, but I think if, like, that making work isn't the right thing in the moment, there is something that's going to contribute to your work that you can do. And that's even something as simple as like having a conversation with the people you love, and like, or reading, or like even watching like an interview of someone that you think is important. I think that there's something out there that's going to balance you and make you feel grounded. And whatever that is, it contributes to your art. And I think a mindset to have that's important. And I don't know if this makes as much sense to everyone as it does to me, but when I realized it, I was like, whoa. But it's like your work is like a part of you when you're making it, no matter what, even if it doesn't have a super personal message, it's coming from a place that's important. So if you're, how do I explain this? Like if you're not properly balanced and properly grounded, then that work isn't going to be what you need it to be. And I think that it's important to have that mindset with everything, but especially work, because, or art, I guess, but just because it's so human that it's just like gonna mimic you. And I think it's important to find that balance. And that doesn't mean stop making work altogether and like don't pay attention to the outside world. And maybe it will once or twice, maybe that's what it'll mean. But other times it's just like pull back, look at other things, let everything contribute to your art, not just the art. Yeah. Sorry if that was weird. I feel like I'm bumbled.
Oh, so good. Okay. That kind of leads to our next point, which is taking care of yourself. So this is so important because I think we can all agree that we haven't made our best work when we weren't taking care of ourselves. I know the work I made at the start of this year, it wasn't for me. It was like me trying to prove myself. I don't really know to who, but that like I was an artist. And I think there's this big stigma in the art world, and like I know other art programs, like being an artist is how well you can draw an apple, but that's not the case. And so I think as artists and as creative people, this is kind of cliche, but you should always do what you love to do. So if you're making work that you don't enjoy making, and that's like not that's you just find really stressful and really like not important to make, then you might want to try figuring out what does feel right and what you love to do. So like I know now my work, I really wanted my work to be like super like super meaningful and like all these layers to it, but it didn't need to be. It needed to be simple. So like I really like just you need to do what you love to do, and you need to have that balance in life. So.
With that, you really gotta trust your gut. I agree. You have to do what you love, as cliche as it is. And I think for me, I knew when I was making the work that was doing the most for me is when it was feeling good before, during, and after making it. Like the planning and the research all felt good, and the actual process of making it felt good, and it made me feel good after, and I got something really valuable out of it. So I think always prioritize and really like be conscious of what you're feeling while you're making your art.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough the importance of what everyone has just said. And kind of like to be a little myth buster, like there are two things that I want to say. One of them is you're not the more you do art, the more time you make and the more time that you do take creating, like it's never going to be everything you make is perfect and everything you make is good. And because again, your work is just reflecting it. I don't know, like sometimes I find that my work is just it's just evidence of like my life, and it's just evidence of being a person, and that's never going to be, that evidence is never going to be perfect because I'm never going to be exactly what I need, like what art like the art you see is not the art that is in the world completely, if that makes sense. And then the other thing is, sorry, I'm getting it all confused in my head, but the other thing is kind of like busting the idea of what productivity means. Again, I pretty much said this already, but it's just about doing what's right in the moment and doing what is going to make you feel more energized. And that's not always production, and that's not always something that feels like what our society tells us is productivity. A lot of the time it's more rooted in like how you feel, and I think it's really important to be in tune with that when you're making art and when you're doing anything in your life, even though sometimes it feels like the world is telling you not to.
Yeah, art for a lot of people is self-care, and like I said before, the balance of using it for self-care and doing it as work is quite tedious. But my brain just totally left what I was going to say. But for me, the self-care in making art isn't the actual art. Like, yes, I enjoy it. Yes, it makes me happy. But a lot of the like fixing things in the brain and like sorting things out also comes with the process of coming up with what to make and how to make it and how to convey a certain like thing to the audience, because I've had a lot of people tell me that once I make the art and once it's done, it's like basically the viewer's art, in that it's like I'm not like, I can only do so much to like tell people what it is. I'm going off on a tangent. This is but the point is that self-care in art can come in a lot of different like ways, and it's just what suits you that you should probably be doing.
Yeah.
As well as obviously taking care of yourself like personally, but
Yeah. And not every like piece of art you make needs to be a masterpiece. Like if it's helping you grow and it's helping, if you're doing something that you love to do, then that's so valid and that's so great. So like not everything you make has to be like the best piece of art ever made. You just really need to listen to yourself and surround yourself with people like who tell you, who like care about you. So like I know I was making a lot of work at the start of the year, and I was putting so much pressure on myself to make this work. And everyone was like, slow down, and having that community support you and listening to them and listening makes you a better artist. Yeah, so we're gonna move to the purposes of art. So like I think we can all agree that the purposes of art are different for different people, like based off your work and your life experiences. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of the time work, I just kind of said this, but it's supposed, people say it has to be super meaningful, especially like contemporary art, but that's not the case. Really, I use art as an escape from quarantine and from like all the stress during quarantine. And like a lot of the time that was a good thing, but it also wasn't, and I wasn't addressing what I was feeling during quarantine. So like I made a painting later that kind of allowed me to let go of that stress that like the quarantine created, and that was one of the like that was so significant in my like being of an artist. So that's just kind of some of the purposes art can have.
For me, art has always been about kind of understanding different parts of myself, and like breaking down these bad misconceptions and bad coping mechanisms I had for myself, which came into play in a lot of different ways, but especially in quarantine, it was really important because of all of the anti-Asian hate that was rising in the pandemic, which was a rough time for me because I was both realizing how important and disconnected I felt from my racial identity, and then also starting to realize how afraid I was for my family and just for Asian people all across the world. And making art really helped me figure out kind of how I felt about my identity and how race was important to me, and also kind of process the fear I was feeling it didn't make it go away, but it helped me understand it better, which is kind of all you can really do in that moment, which was really important to me, to just express that to other people as well as myself.
Yeah, sorry if you can hear someone creeping up the stairs. I don't really know what's going on. But for me, I found when I started making work, it was just kind of like a space to explore my relationship with myself and with other people, and it continues to be that. But as I grew and I moved forward and the community around me strengthened, I realized that like what my work is and what all work kind of turns into is just like a facilitator for connection and a vessel for empathy, and like being able to like make, I don't know, it's just a way to feel connected to other people everywhere and making work. I don't know, there's just something so beautiful about talking about art and then making it and then showing people and then having them talk about it and then perceive it. And if you let kind of the fear and the stigma, if you let that kind of fall down and you're able to find a community that works for you, I've found that the main purpose and the main thing that I've gained from making art is just like self growth and like making myself feel connected to a bigger entity. Um, and I know that that sounds massive and hard to achieve, but it's really not. All it takes is like one conversation or like one comment or one book or something like that. I don't know. It's really easy. It's a lot easier than it seems to feel connected in this world. And I think art is a really, really simple step to do that. And I found that to be really important. So,
Yeah. And the art you're making, whether it's personally or politically significant, I feel like it is always kind of a reflection on like you and how you feel and what you're thinking. And I think that's important to keep in mind when making art, even if it's like a pointless piece of art that you're like, I'm just gonna do this because I want to do this. It's very like it's very evident that you're thinking about something while you're doing it and there is a purpose behind it. It might not be the biggest like meaningful purpose in the world. It might not like be the answer to all of life's questions ever, but like there's a purpose behind every piece of art that is made for both you and the person viewing it. And I think it's important to, see both sides of like, yes, art is important for the person making it, the artist, but it is also very purposeful for a lot of people who view the art and who are affected by the art just because of how influential some pieces could be. And I think that one of the main purposes of art is also to convey a message to the viewer. So
Yeah, and like I know a lot of work is made like for yourself and like to work through or address a problem or just something in your life. But a lot of the time it does a lot more than that. So Ava did a painting earlier this year. It was a heritage project, and that painting like completely changed my life, and it changed the way I view art, and it changed the goals I had as an artist. And then being at ESA and being surrounded by like all these amazing artists and people in the older grades especially, their work has impacted my life so much, and it's pretty much like the thing that's motivated my work the most, especially during quarantine. So a lot of the time your work is doing a lot more than you think it is, and it's having such an impact on just the world and like artists in the world, especially when you share it like online. So just kind of general message, like your work does so much for others, and it can do so much for others. So this kind of translates to our last thing, and I know this has been like the most impactful thing in my life. So that's the community, that's having a community. I know like not everyone goes to ESA, but the ESA community is more than just like the students who are in the school. Um, it's really accessible right now for a lot of people. Um, like we mentioned earlier, the art talks, those changed my life. Like even before I was had auditioned, and they're accessible for everyone. So again, go watch those. They're so great. Also the Portfolio Day videos and the Portfolio Day website. Also check that out. But just having like a goal in your work and having people to show your work to, and who are gonna like support you and let you take on all these things in life, not on your own. That's so important. That's so needed. And there's so many, so like finding a community is so important. Yeah.
I completely agree with everything Jane said. I honestly think the two things I would say to someone that asked me how to let themselves be more productive, and like I'm not saying that I'm the most productive in the world. I promise you I'm not at all. But like to open yourself up to a community. And again, I know that ESA is not accessible to everyone. You might not live in the city, or you might not be a teenager anymore. But finding a community is really, really, I found to be like the game changer in making art. And it doesn't only exist here. I mean, you can watch our videos and participate in things like this, but you can also find your own your own community, and it's going to look different for everyone. And I don't even know how to describe it. I think you'll understand once you're there and once you have something like this, but I found it to be like really the thing that keeps me going and makes me feel like I'm constantly connected to something and constantly connected to art, even when it's not something that I'm producing or feeling really great about. And it just lets me feel like I can let my work be whatever it is. And because I know there's this kind of stigma to like make everything feel perfect, but I don't know, like if you can just let it be what it needs to be in that moment and then grow and move forward in the way that makes sense. I don't know why these two things connect, but somehow community is the reason why that's something I'm able to do now. I guess it's not just me fighting with myself anymore and trying to make things perfect, but it really alleviates a lot of outside stress, and it makes things feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. Also don't mind the photo of me lying dead on the floor.
Oh my God.
But
I include it.
doing great. But yeah, community is such an important thing for me when making art. I owe a lot of the ideas behind my paintings and the way I executed the paintings, and so much, and just like so many meaningful, like good conversations I've had. I owe it like all to just the community of ESA, and it's such like an intertwining kind of web of people that you can go to. If you don't have another safe space to go to anywhere else, it's always great to have a community to just go to and feel safe with and welcomed, and like hugged, kind of. It's just so special to be part of any community ever. For me, it was especially ESA. But yeah, it's art making, I feel like is a lot about doing something kind of like as a group, but not really. Like obviously your art is individually your art, but it's hard to make art on your own without being part of some sort of community or group, or even like 3 people like that you talk to. That's even better than just being alone and being isolated and doing nothing, because I can tell you that I was making more art when I was in the studio for the quadmesters that I was in the studio than I have this whole month. I've been working on the same painting for like since March, because I've had no like human contact, which now that I'm thinking about it, it's really important. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Connection is so much a part of art making, and just being able to like bounce stuff off of people, and connect with other people and just be supported is so much of like what art making is about, and it's also just so much of what like ESA is about and why it's so successful. So I'd say wherever you are, like find a community, whether it's just a couple people or it's hundreds of people. Like any community is so important for staying motivated and it really was a game changer in my life.
Yeah, so just having a place where everyone wants you to succeed, and they support you and they love you, that just like that's been the thing that's like made my art where it is. Um, so yeah, that's the community. We're gonna go to a little thank you. So we're gonna do questions after this, but I just want to take a moment to thank Evelyn, Ava, and Dessa. You're like the dream team, and thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been such a great experience. And then I just want to thank Mr. Berry, Hannah, Isabella, Abby, and Cole, and all the grade 11 and 12s who put so much work into making ARTCON happen. I don't have Art the Squad, but having this goal and having this community through quarantine has like gotten me through this really hard time. So thank you. We're gonna open up to questions now. These are some that we got before. So I guess we can answer these now and then just send some things in the chat. Oh, the chat's so cute. Okay, yeah. Questions. I guess the first one, how do you avoid procrastinating on art projects? I guess I can speak about this. Do what you love to do. Like, I don't know your circumstances, like if you're given really strict projects, but I think your work needs to come from you. It needs to be something you love doing. Yeah. Anyone? Okay.
I can take the next one.
Yeah.
So how to stay motivated to make art, especially after exercising my creativity constantly during art school and feeling worn out. So I feel like I talked about this a lot, which is why I took this question, but really let productivity like shapeshift. That's not just production. So obviously if you're in art school and you're taking courses, you're going to need to submit things under deadlines. But as unnatural as it feels, sometimes not focusing on the thing you have to do and focusing on something else is going to make you work harder and faster once you get there. So I would say read a book that makes you feel connected to yourself and grounded, or write, or watch an art talk, or watch like, I don't know, sometimes I even watch like directors of like famous directors talking to each other and it sparks something. Like whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel like actually whatever makes you feel excited and like ready to jump into it, just do that until it translates into your work, and I promise you it will. So yeah.
I can take the next question, I guess. Also, if you guys have questions, put them in the Q&A or in the chat. We will be happy to answer them. But how do you make sure you're improving? The thing is, it's despite what we all said earlier about taking breaks and not working yourself hard, you need to be working. And you need to be, if you're not working, you need to be researching or reading or doing something to make sure that you are kind of in the mindset. Because yes, like you should not overwork yourself, but you should be most of the time in the mindset of, okay, like art, like you should kind of be immersed in the world of like art and contemporary art, and whether it's watching a video like Evelyn said or doing something, or even going for a walk, like give yourself a break, just think about stuff while you're going for a walk. It's just important that you're not overworking yourself, but you're thinking about what you want to do next, or like what you want to read next, or stuff like that. It's important to give yourself a break, but also you got to work if you want to get better.
Yeah. What are some tips for getting over an art block? I definitely get a lot of art blocks, and I would say for me, I don't know, I think like taking some of the pressure off of myself has made it a lot easier to make art. It like feels wrong in the moment to stop putting pressure on yourself, but kind of as soon as I stopped feeling so guilty about not making art, I felt way more motivated to make art. And also just like I feel like getting over that first time, it depends on the person, it depends on what kind of work you make, but just like forcing yourself to do one thing, even if it's just like a tiny step, can really lead to getting through that a bit more, and then you just do one easy thing. Like for me, I'll go print something, or I'll decide what I'm going to make next, even if it's just like writing about it. That often makes the rest of it come really easily for me.
Yeah, so, the next question is, how do you find creativity in isolation? So I just say, like, you need to be reaching out to people. My Instagram at James.art. If you have any questions or just want to talk or just anything, please DM me. Even like just DM me, guys. Just talking to people and like surrounding yourself by work. That's kind of what I'd say. And then we got another question. How did you find your art style? For me, I don't think I've found my style yet. I think I'm still trying to figure that out. And I think it's really just trying new things, and not limiting yourself. Like, it's kind of hypocritical of me to say, but trying new things and just surrounding yourself with diverse work and diverse people. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am so far. I don't know if anyone else.
Right, I'd say. Like really trusting your gut.
And
Yeah.
also, oh, you go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, look at art and like take little pieces of it. And I don't mean like steal it, but I mean like if you see someone's work and you love the way the concept works, and then you see another and you like the visuals, like don't be afraid to take inspiration from other artists, because it's really important, and even the most famous people do it, I promise. So look at art.
And also just doing art. And I know like sometimes you'll look at your work and you'll be like, I don't have a style. You do, you probably do. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that you don't have one, because everyone kind of does things their own way. Everyone has their own like way of painting or their own way of doing, well, I can only speak on painting. I don't know, but because I'm a painter, but everyone kind of has like their own way. Just because you paint or you sculpt doesn't mean you don't have your own individual way of creating it and coming up with it. And it's not really as much about the style as it is about the art you make, because you will find a style. Like I promise, it will just happen. And I've had so many people come up to me and be like, oh my God, you have a style. And I'm like, I don't see it. But I promise you, you do have one and you will find it.
Yeah, you're not gonna know unless you try. So
Yeah, and all the work you make is coming from you, so it's all a part of you. So that's kind of a style in itself. But just yeah, everyone always said this, but just look at other art and try new things. Okay, so the next question is advice for working on art with others, like the same piece, or like, okay, I don't know. I've never worked on like a piece directly with someone, but I'd say maybe just be as clear and as you can, and figure out what the common goal of the piece is. Yeah, Evelyn.
oh, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, okay, but I will say something. I think one thing to do is to like have an open mind. When you're making art, you're not always going to be right. And sometimes the best thing you can do is learn from someone else. So whether you mean like making work with physically, like doing a collaboration, which can be like sometimes the most frustrating thing, but other times it can be like you can learn way more from it than you would anything you did on your own. Or if you're talking about just like talking to people about your work, which I think is like a complete must. Like don't wait to share your work until you're done making it. Like I will advocate for that. But either way, I would say keep an open mind and let yourself learn, and listen to the people around you, because they wouldn't be saying something if they didn't care. So yeah.
And I feel like in order to make art, I'm just speaking, I've never made art with like as a collaboration, but in a community, making art like with a group of people or with others, it depends on how involved you are in that community. You can't make art with other people without being part of those other people, because you can be part of a community without being like active in that community. And the trick to making art in a community is being an active member of that community and helping others, which will in turn, like help yourself. And yeah, it's just important to, have an open mind and just talk to people. Talking to people is more helpful than you think. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you feel like you don't have a person to talk to or a person to show your art to, DM me on Instagram.
We're here.
Instagram in the chat, james.art, or like you need to show your work to people and you need to hear from them. And there are people who care about you and your work, like me. So yeah, just get your work noticed by people.
Ooh, another question. Oh, it's okay. It's probably the character design meeting probably isn't uploaded yet.
Yeah, they'll take a second.
They're gonna get uploaded soon. How do you balance being productive and spending time with friends and family? This year has been weird. Like, I think that all the art I make is kind of, that's most of the time it's with people, so that's kind of that. But I feel like I probably shouldn't be answering this because I don't really have that balance. A lot, like this year, I feel like art's like my entire life, and like all my friends and my community and my family, they're all like involved in my art. But I think that balance is something really important to find. So I think I've kind of like intertwined the two things, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say if it's possible to intertwine them, but of course that's not something everyone is going to have access to. And I would say carve out time for both things, I guess. If you're really in a place where you need to like be producing a lot of work, but you also want to, because sometimes it's easy for us to like get lost in the production part and kind of isolate ourselves. So yeah, carve out times for both things. Keep talking to people, even if it's not about art. It's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of said what I was going to say. Just making time for both things is probably the most important. Yeah, because family and friends and having human contact, especially being stuck at home all day, for those doing school. I'm mostly in my room. I don't know if y'all can relate, but I just kind of, it's where I spend most of my time, and making time to eat dinner or a meal with the people like you love, like your family, or going out one day with your friends for a walk. It's important to just have that human contact, and making time is the way to do that. So
yeah, just making sure you're not sacrificing anything, because that is, I think that's just a really harmful thing. Like your art making shouldn't be like hurting your relationship with your friends and family, and spending time with your friends and family shouldn't be like, I mean, obviously you're going to be less productive if you're working less time, but it should also like lead to art making in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'd also say if you feel safe doing this and if you're comfortable with it, and even if it's just a little bit, share your work with your family. I think that can be, I don't know. I found that sometimes my instinct is to keep them really separate, and that can be a lot of work to like almost hide that thing if you're a young person making work about really personal things in your life. So if you feel safe, share it with the people you love for sure.
yeah, to add on that, my parents know all of the personal work I make, and thankfully I have like really open and accepting parents that are like, they're like, okay, you want to make art about that, you know what, you do that. And I'm actually surprised about what they've been okay with. Like, I'm like, oh, thank you. But I feel like they can, if you're going to share your art with your family, it's important that they know that they have to make the choice between either supporting you through doing that, or if they don't support you, knowing that you're just going to do it anyway because it's what is important to you. As long as you're not like publicly sharing family secrets, I think that for the most part, sharing is an important thing, like Evelyn said.
Yeah. Okay, this one ties in a lot. So it says, how can your family support your creativity?
Mm.
So I think one thing I would say, which is a little bit hypocritical of what I just said, but if you feel like you inherently don't have a family that would, for any reason, support what you're making, I would say as much as you can in a way that would make sense to them. And I don't know if that completely makes sense right now, but communicate why art is important to you in a way that you think they'll understand, just so you can get some support in some way, because that is important. Yeah.
Trying to think. Yeah, like I said before, my parents are, I'm really lucky, but my parents are quite involved. They make sure they make time to be involved. Like at my dad's place, he's kind of gotten together a whole little studio area for me, which I'm so happy about. But I realized that a lot of people's families aren't as like immersed in what they're doing. And it's important to kind of share, because if you keep the two worlds separate, then your parents or family are never going to be able to support you creatively, because you're not sharing with them, you're not letting them like get into what you're making and how you're making it and how you're doing it. It could be something as little as like them taking you to the art store and seeing what you make and how you make it. I think, yeah, it's important that you just share what you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, just kind of adding on to that, I think it goes both ways. You have to like understand there needs to be a balance between like complete vulnerability and like not having that vulnerability. And I think that's kind of up to the person who's being creative. Not everyone's going to be ready to share everything that their work's about. So I think to stay open-minded, and to like not pressure anyone to share stuff they don't want to share. I think that's really important. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, there's no like bad questions.
I think we're nearing the end as well, so
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe okay.
So it's gonna be up.
Unless there's any last ones, then okay, I guess we'll just, if you have any other questions, again, my Instagram is at, there's like literally no bad questions. Yeah. So just be sure to check out the ESA Instagram as well. Like I stalk this Instagram all the time. It's so great. They have so much work from us and like other grads. And then the ESA YouTube, that's where all the art talks and the portfolio day videos are too. Like I highly like go watch them now. They're so amazing. Register for more sessions. So a lot of the people we recommended art talks about, they're going to be speaking tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And that will be available here at esacontemporaryartcommunity.com. And also please support the student art sale. A lot of the grade 12s here are going into fields in the US, and the work goes to supporting them there and supporting the community. So please check that out. Yeah, we look forward to the thing is covering this, but thank you for coming. We look forward to seeing you at ARTCON 2022.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.